Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. And now, Tider Insider TV.
It's going closer to the end of the season, and we need these games because it's an important time for us to get wins, and also it's a rivalry game, and it's at Auburn.
It'll be on their court, so their fans will be rowdy. Last year when we played them, it wasn't the turnout that we wanted, so hopefully it'll be different this year.
Alabama versus Auburn in hoops tomorrow night at the Auburn Arena at 7:30. We'll get more into that game in a moment, but first, we welcome in you to the latest edition of Tider Insider TV, presented each and every week by Buffalo Rock, alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. I'm Gary Harris, WVUA 23 Sports Director, and once again, courtesy of Buffalo Rock, we've got ice-cold Diet Pepsi. Listen to that sound. That'll make you thirsty, but I tell you what, the payoff is when you do that right there. Now I'm ready to talk for 30 minutes. You ready to talk for 30 minutes?
I'm ready.
All right, we got it. Remember to pick up some Pepsi products the next time here at your local grocery store from Buffalo Rock. Before we talk basketball, Rodney, let's break down the latest reports on the Alabama football coaching staff. Miami defensive line coach Craig Kuligowski is expected to take the same position with the Crimson Tide, replacing Carl Dunbar, who left a couple weeks ago for the NFL's Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, this has not been confirmed by the university, but it appears that Coach Cool, as they call him, is the guy coming to Tuscaloosa. In fact, you had heard this yesterday before the reports came out, but as always, you like to be thorough. But I'm telling you something, since you texted me yesterday that this might be the guy, I did a little research. I knew of him a little bit from his time at Missouri, but boy, Coach Cool, 5 first-round draft picks at Mizzou. Miami this past season, their defensive line terrorized quarterbacks. Alabama, we know, has got the personnel. Coach Dunbar did a good job, but I have heard from everybody that I've talked to or anybody that I've read as far as analysts, they love this guy's ability to get defensive linemen, particularly get them to go after the quarterback.
Yeah. Well, I think the last 2 seasons in Miami, his defensive front led the nation in sacks per game, Gary, so obviously they did an outstanding job. And you remember under Gary Pinkel at Missouri, they had defensive lines that racked up a lot of sacks. One season they set the school record with 44 in a year. So obviously they do a really good job of that. And he's produced a lot of, as you mentioned, first-round players. I think he's produced 4 first-round defensive linemen since '09.
Yeah.
So he's got a great track record.
And, you know, and look at what he's going to have to work with. We know Alabama's talent on the defensive line is second to none, but pass rushers particularly next year. A guy like Anthony Jennings, Terrell Lewis, Christian Miller, it goes on and on. Rashawn Davis, his ability to rush the quarterback up the middle. This could be a really good unit, and with his expertise at getting guys to the quarterback, I'm telling you what, I think there's some offensive coordinators around the Southeastern Conference that are going, oh, my gosh.
Oh, wow. I'm telling you, when the news kind of started breaking yesterday that this might happen, you know, the response among a lot of people from various programs in terms of fans was like, you know, that's how well this guy's known. All over the country, they were like, wow, this is almost unfair. I mean, this guy with the reputation he has for developing defensive linemen. And Gary, one thing I'll tell you that he does is if you watch what he did at Missouri, sometimes he took some guys that really weren't the most highly touted players, and the way he developed them was extremely impressive.
Well, it looks to be a great hire for Alabama, and tell you what, as I said, he'll have terrific material to work with. Nothing against Missouri and nothing against Miami, but I am going to garner to guess. You said he took a lot of guys in Missouri. They weren't highly recruited, and Miami certainly, their recruiting's on the uptick, but he'll probably have as much talent as he's ever worked with in his career right here at Alabama.
You would sure think so, and I tell you, he got a lot of guys when he was at Missouri out of the state of Texas, so he's got some ties there, and that's an area where Alabama likes to recruit.
One other tidbit. His senior season, he played at Toledo, 1990, the head coach, Nick Saban. Comes back around. Well, tomorrow night, the Alabama basketball team heads to the Plains to take on the SEC first place leading Auburn Tigers. Now, Auburn has 3 SEC losses this season. One came against the Tide back in Coleman Coliseum last month. Head coach Avery Johnson said today he'd like to see a similar offensive approach for the Tide from last month's game in tomorrow night's rematch.
Because of our ball movement, our pace, great screens that we set, execution out of timeouts. I just think from an offensive standpoint, we were feeling really good about taking the shots with confidence, and fortunately we made, enough of them.
Alabama is coming off a loss at Kentucky. Overall, the Crimson Tide's in a four-way tie for third place in the conference. Still fighting for a spot in the NCAA tournament. Looks good, but not a done deal yet. A win at Auburn, though, would go a long way to strengthen the resume of the Crimson Tide. And the Tigers are vulnerable. They've got a lot of injuries. Rodney, this is a game where even though Alabama's on the road and Auburn has been dynamic, McLemore, their forward, went down with that terrible ankle injury against South Carolina. He's lost for the season. They're really down to 8 guys.
Wow. And
they have some trouble against long, athletic teams. We saw that against Alabama. I think this is a winnable game. I know it's a winnable game for the Tide. I still give Auburn the edge at home, but boy, if they could go down there and beat the Tigers,
it'd be huge.
Then you probably go ahead and stamp that seal of approval for the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, you think so?
I do think so.
Wow, that would be a huge win in a lot of ways. I mean, when you're talking about sweeping your arch rival in the regular season and stamping your ticket or punching your ticket to the NCAA?
You know, it would probably still be pending because you'd have to win another game or two, but it would be on there pending. That would be a huge win. And to sweep Auburn, we're talking about not beat them once now. That's why tomorrow night's so huge. It's one thing to win at home, but if you win at the Auburn Arena where they've only lost one game and that was a nail-biter to Texas A&M, it would go a long way. But we know what this Alabama team's capable of, Rodney, on both ends. We've seen them play outstanding and look like they're good enough to beat anybody in the country, and then we've seen games where, you know, they've really struggled. So you still, I don't think, know for sure what you're going to get. I think that's the key. If Alabama plays well, I think they can win this game tomorrow night. If they don't, it might get ugly.
Well, I mean, they've already shown that if they play well, they can run anybody out of the gym.
Right.
I mean, it's amazing. And then, you know, the inconsistency. But again, we've talked about that over and over, the youth and all of that. But you're right, Gary. I'm looking forward to the game, and hopefully Alabama can punch its ticket.
Get it done against the Tigers tomorrow night. Well, still to come on Tider Insider TV, a strong start to the season for the Alabama softball team. Did we expect anything else? And a perfect opening weekend for Brad Bohannon and the Crimson Tide baseball team. We'll hear from the Tide's new head coach. And, of course, we'll be getting to your phone calls, emails, and tweets. The Daniel Moore New Life Art Hotline is ready to go at 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Call now so you can lock in your spot. Or email us, TITV@WVUA23.com. Or Brandon will be checking the tweets. If you use that hashtag TITV, you can send us a comment or ask us a question through Twitter. We'll be back with more of the show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide. The one, the only, Tider Insider Television is coming back after this. Bama baseball at home at the Joe. That's a good shot today against Middle Tennessee. And Alabama put together a little rally in the second. They got 3 early runs, and Chandler Taylor back in the lineup. He would add an RBI later in the game. And that's all the Bama pitching staff would need. Rodney, how about this? They shut out the Blue Raiders 4-0. 7 pitchers combined on a 4-hitter today. Wow. You think Brad Bohannon's interested in building some depth with that pitching staff? Bama is 4-0. Welcome back into TITV alongside Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris. The expectations, quite frankly, for Bama baseball this year, not that high. Not because of Brad Bohannon, just because of the team's struggles last year. But, hey, man, 4 games, the best you can be is 4-0. Alabama is, and that includes a 3-game sweep last weekend of Valparaiso to start the season. And Bohannon was quick to remind everybody that the coaching staff, yes, it's new, but there are players on this ball club that have a lot of experience.
You know, we have a bunch of juniors and seniors in the lineup, and I think any sport at any level, experience is vital. And we have a lot of guys that have a lot of college at-bats under their belt, and that's going to be a real benefit for us as a whole.
And it's going to get tougher this coming weekend. Alabama will host Washington State from the Pac-12 for a 3-game series at Sul Thomas Stadium. Rodney, obviously it's a little early to start booking tickets for Omaha. Alabama hasn't been since 1999, by the way. But 4-0 is 4-0. We said last week. The fun seems to be back. The enthusiasm is back, but you need to win some games. And Alabama did exactly that over the weekend. Hey, they scored 34 runs in a 3-game series. They won handily on Friday and Sunday, had a comeback win on Saturday. They win this afternoon in shutout fashion using a lot of different pitchers. This lineup is, I know it's early in the year, and they're not facing the best pitching yet, but they're hitting the ball all over the ballpark. They've shown some power. I mean, so far, so good, right?
41 hits.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that over the weekend series. They had 41 hits. And, yeah, I mean, that's something that I think's got everyone excited, Gary. And if they can kind of combine that, I know we're early in the season, but if they can combine that with the pitching you noted from today, you know, if they can hit the ball, continue to hit the ball well as you move along, of course, the competition's going to pick up. But it's a good sign.
Yeah, and it's It's fun that the guys are having fun. It's a great place to watch a game. The temperatures are warm. They're playing some afternoon weekday games, which I like. And I think this team is going to surprise some people. Not making any predictions, but I do think that this team is going to be fun to watch. And I think they're going to beat some people. Last year, for all of their losses, they swept Auburn at Auburn. We've talked a lot about that. And there were other series that they could have easily run. One, Mississippi State jumps into my mind. Others where there was a run here or there that really cost them an opportunity to have a much better record than they had. So maybe they'll straighten it all up this year. Well, from baseball to softball, the Crimson Tide lost its first game of the season on Sunday against number 11 Baylor. Bama's still 6-1 this year. They've only allowed 4 runs in the first 7 games. Here's Patrick Murphy.
We got 2 righties and a lefty, and they throw completely different. All 3 have different styles, so it's tough for another team to scout us because they got to prepare for 3 different pitchers. But they've given us a chance to win, and that's the #1 thing you can ask as a starting pitcher. Just give your team an opportunity to win the game. And so far, they're 7 for 7.
Absolutely. You know about Osorio? The 2 new pitchers are pitching well, and this weekend Alabama will host the Eastern Bama Bash. Northern Iowa, Patrick Murphy's old school, and 7th-ranked Florida State are in town, along with Georgia State. That's going to be a tough tournament. 5 games in 3 days. Well, coming up, a modest winning streak for the women's basketball team, but it's an important one. We'll give you an update on Christy Curry's squad. And coming up next, your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Again, the phone number 205-348-9882. Go ahead and get through now so that we can get you on the program. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide. The award-winning Tider Insider TV will return right after this timeout. Props for Alabama senior forward Ashley Williams. She's the SEC Women's Basketball Player of the Week. She led the Tide to 2 wins, including Bama's first ever win in Knoxville against Tennessee, and then the Tide took down the Auburn Tigers at home on Sunday. Alabama won its 3rd straight against the Tigers at home, moving to 17-10 on the season. Alabama will host Georgia on Thursday. And right now, let's head to the Daniel Moore New Life Art Hotline, and we're lined up for us tonight. I'm going to start off with one of our main dudes here on the program, John from Bessemer. John, what's going on, man?
Gary, Ronnie, what's going on, man?
You tell me.
No, man, I'm just worrying about next year in football. Do y'all think Alabama's going to be real good in defense, and will Alabama be back in the playoffs next year? And I'll holler at y'all later on.
All right, John. No, I don't think they're going to be good at all, buddy. Yeah, of course they're going to be good, John. You know, the question is, you're right. Will they be able to get in the college football playoff for the 5th time in 5 years? Playoffs. Had 4 playoffs. Alabama's been in it every time. They're the only school in the country that can say that. Right now, as we sit, not even at spring practice yet, I would say yes. They would be one of my 4 picks to get in the college football playoff in 2018.
And again, we saw what happened this year, John, with all the injuries that Alabama had. I mean, unprecedented amount of injuries. I mean, when you look at the number of injuries they had, it was almost unbelievable that they even had an opportunity to get into the playoffs, to be honest with you. You never can predict things like that, but I'm with Gary. I think right now you certainly would say Alabama's one of the 4 teams heading into next year that you would say would probably be in the playoffs. All
right, let's stay on the Daniel Moore New Life Art Hotline and talk with Little Kenny in Havana. What's up, Little Kenny? Little Kenny, turn your TV down, man. Kenny, all right, we're going to have to go here in a minute. Can you get your TV cut down? All right, we're going to have to. Yeah, there you go. Go ahead, Little Kenny.
Hey, guys, I was wondering, how can these assistant coaches for the football team here at Alabama, how can they justify leaving Tuscaloosa, considering the lifestyle, the fact they'll be coaching for a winning team, the fact they'll be coaching some of the best players in
Little Kenny, it's a legitimate question. I think, though, coaches are always looking for opportunities, and I agree with everything you say. If you're going to coach college football, there's not a better place in America to coach it than right here. And I think a lot of coaches would agree with you. At the same time, if you're Jeremy Pruitt and you get a chance to be a head coach in the SEC, you're going to take that opportunity. If you're Derek Ansley and you got a chance to be a defensive coordinator in Division I, you're going to take that. And then he was there about a day and got a job with the Raiders. So I don't think it's – and Carl Dunbar going back to the NFL where he is tenured. I don't think guys are leaving just to go coach at the local high school, Little Kenny. You know what I mean? They only leave Alabama when they get great opportunities. And that's the great thing about being Alabama. When a coach leaves, you can find another terrific coach to replace them with.
Well, I think you make a good point. It's not about necessarily that these guys left for other maybe what you would call parallel moves or or however you want to phrase it, to other schools. I mean, you look at Jeremy Pruitt, obviously he's becoming a head coach, and all those guys taking NFL gigs. I mean, Dunbar's really, he's always been an NFL coach.
Brian Daboll's
the same way, so it's not really that unexpected. The thing is how well Nick Saban, when these things happen, how well he does in terms of evaluating and bringing in coaches in here that are as good or better.
And they've got something to prove. They want to come in and prove they can keep winning at the same level those other guys were winning at. So I don't see it as a bad thing at all. Little Kenny, good phone call from Havana. All right, let's stay here in Tuscaloosa and talk with Ella. Ella, how are you this evening? Ella, you with us? All right. Okay, well, Ella wanted to talk about softball, but I don't know what she wanted to talk about. So maybe you can get back on in the next segment. We told you they got a big weekend coming up with the Easton Bama Bash. We're going to get more phone calls on the air, so you keep it tuned. Tider Insider TV will return, and the Alabama Gymnastics team picked up a big win. We'll have that story and more phone calls. There's the number on the screen. You stay with us. We'll be back after this. Crimson Tide senior gymnast Mackenzie Brannon tore her Achilles in practice this weekend. The bar specialist will miss the rest of the season. This came after a home win for the Tide against Kentucky on Friday as Alabama prepares for this week's road meet at Auburn. Head coach Dana Tuckworth said Brannon's injury gives the rest of the team some motivation to pick things up and do it for their teammate.
I think it's a for her mentality. Every single one of those ladies in their conditioning program yesterday, when we write, why did you do this today? Every one of them wrote for Mac. And so we're going to use this to allow some other people to step up. We're going to use this to know that one person doesn't make a team and that we all work together to do this for each other.
Alabama number 7 this week in the rankings. Let's go right back to the Daniel Moore New Life Art Hotline and welcome in BT here in T-Town. Hey, BT, what's going on, man?
Not much, Gary. Rodney, how about y'all?
Very well, sir.
Yes, sir. I was going to talk about the playoffs and for Alabama. You think those wins, like Rhode Island and those other games, we got a chance to get
I sure do, BT. I think Rhode Island's a big win. They had the longest winning streak in the country until St. Bonaventure knocked them off in a nail-biter last week. But that's a huge win. Oklahoma has faded, but still that's a good win when you take it into context. When they beat Oklahoma, Oklahoma was really playing well. They've got big wins over Auburn. They've got a win over Texas A&M. They've got some quality wins. There's no doubt about it. Even their losses. They've lost to some really good teams. Arizona. Texas is playing better now. Yeah, they're right there, BT. Now, you can't go out and go 0-4 these Final Four games.
Florida and Tennessee were both top 15 teams
those
as well.
Are huge wins. Tennessee was a huge win, and Florida on the road. So they're right there. Now, they need to keep on winning for these final regular season games.
They've got to finish. They've got to finish. I mean, that's the key right now. I think BT is, Alabama's got to finish this off. Gary says, you heard his prediction now. If Alabama wins this game against Auburn, they pretty much punched their ticket.
When they beat Auburn, they'll get in. There's no doubt in my mind about that. If they beat Auburn, they'll win at least one of those last 3, if not 2, and that, in my opinion, will get them in. But haven't won down there yet. Got to go do it tomorrow night. Let's go over to Anniston, talk with our pal Harold. Harold, how are you doing, buddy?
All right, guys. Hey, I got a couple of questions, man. I want to ask y'all, I see with the recruiting landscape now with Jeremy Pruitt at Tennessee and with George and everything, it looks like it's just going to be really hard, man, to get players. I just want to ask y'all, do you think we need to do a better job of recruiting in-state? Because we lost a couple of key players in-state, man, and that's not like us. I just wanted to ask.
Yeah, Harold, again, I understand what you're talking about in terms of Justin Ross down at Phoenix City Central and probably Malik Langham at Huntsville Lee late. I think Alabama really wanted him late. And, he kind of got away to Florida, obviously. But I think Alabama does an excellent job of recruiting. They evaluate. They're trying to take the best players, whether they're from Alabama or wherever. I think that they want to get the best players that they have an opportunity to get. And they certainly want to get the best players in the state. And, Gary, it's a pretty good year, so Harold's right. Alabama does need to do a good job in this recruiting cycle of landing players from the state of Alabama.
Yeah, and only 2 players they signed from Alabama this past recruiting cycle, none from Mississippi. But now all of a sudden this year, Alabama and Mississippi both are strong.
And again, you make a good point. It wasn't really a great year in the state of Alabama. So that's one reason why, Harold, when you see a little bit of a down in terms of the talent pool. Alabama obviously isn't going to sign as many in-state players, but the two you were talking about certainly are guys that would have been valuable additions.
All right, let's get Jason in from Brilliant real quick before we go to the break. Jason, how are you?
I'm good. How are y'all guys?
Doing well. What you got, man?
Why do you think that maybe Coach Saban and them didn't contact Coach McElwain to come back to be an offensive coordinator, you know, as good as he did when he was there?
Yeah, good question, Jason. A couple of reasons probably, and I think probably Coach Mack and Coach Saban had some discussions in regards to maybe coaching here or somewhere else. It's official. Coach Mack's the wide receivers coach at Michigan, announced today by the University of Michigan. Sometimes, you know, you just timing, you don't want to go back. I think Coach Loxley deserves the opportunity to be an offensive coordinator here based on what he's done. I think Coach Saban wanted to reward him. Had a chance to bring in Coach Enos, who Coach Saban's long admired. And real quickly, Rodney, it just wasn't right for him to come back, even though he's a really good football coach.
And again, I think, too, as we said, Nick Saban does a thorough job of evaluating where we are currently, what needs to be done. And I think when you looked at it, Mike Loxley's already on the staff, the familiarity he has with the players, the relationships that he has with the players, and the job that he's done in the past as an offensive coordinator, Gary. And you mentioned Dan Enos. I mean, this guy's an outstanding coach as well.
All right, thanks for the phone calls. Coming up, we knew Deron Payne was strong, but I tell you what, he's really, really strong. He's agile, too. We'll show you him in the gym. Plus, look good, play good. That's the motto for Alabama football. We'll show you a new addition to the football facility. Stay with us. We're back after this. Deron Payne is a big man. Deron Payne is a strong man. There's proof right there. That's 635 for the deadlift, and he's going to take it up like it's nothing. Come on, Deron, get right there. Just nothing. You can do a lot more than that, too. And yesterday, Alabama ushered in the grand opening of Bama Cuts. It's a new barbershop located in the Malmore Athletic Complex. The Alabama football team already took to the new shop, getting their own new dues. And if you want to look good, you can't go to Bama Cuts, you can still go to the locker room in downtown Tuscaloosa. That's where Rodney and I get hooked up with original elephant wear and much more. Check them out or shop online. They'll have you looking your best. All right, it's the third Tuesday of the month. We're headed to Buddy's in Northport to have dinner. Come out and meet us about 7:15. Good night.